Greetings, friends. Ta-da! Here I am, live once again. Now, what I didn't think about doing is bringing up that music, that sweet, sweet music from last time. I'm gonna do that now. And just go to the audio library here on the YouTube and filter the songs by duration. Now, what did we... Let's listen to this one. Let's see what this one's like. Amazing and wonderful. Hello, welcome. I miraculously can see the chat inside of OBS now because, oh, that's not what I want to do. Why is it going over so far? Oh well, anyway. I can see the chat inside of OBS now, even though I'm streaming on YouTube, but it doesn't feel right, so I'm gonna go back to the YouTube interface. I connected my account this time instead of using the stream thing. What's it called? The stream key. You know it and love it, I'm sure. Anyway, this was my progress from last time. So I think I might just keep continuing to color in these stems and such. I believe that I was using my wonderful ink brush here, your new favorite inker. So that's what I'm going off of. So let me get my settings on, and great. The music is pretty loud. Okay. I didn't make any changes to the audio from when I do Majora's Mask, so is that better? I also was talking pretty quietly because I didn't feel like projecting my voice anymore. My mouth is also very dry. So I just drink some water. Okay, hopefully that helps a little bit. Also, yes, I like that you say my vocals. I mean, they are my vocals. So it's all good. Now, where the heck did this... Oh, there it is. I was like, what layer are all of these things on? You'll have to forgive me if I go long periods of time without reading all of your comments because I'm not looking at them on the screen that I'm on. But tell me your thoughts, my friend. You wanted to talk about the things you've learned for your writing. And in the meantime, because I think, by the way, too, that there is more of a delay for YouTube. At least as far as I can see when I look at the preview of the stream on YouTube compared to what I'm actually doing now, it is a little bit behind. So while I'm waiting to see any other comments that you might say or topics to talk about, I'll just say that apparently I should be good to stream on Saturday now. So turns out that my friend, his roommate is sick. I guess they were both going to come to Philly over the weekend. And so now, because his roommate is sick, they're rescheduling that. And he said he didn't want to, he was worried that he might get sick and he didn't want to bring us his germs. So very understandable. So instead, we're just going to hang out on Discord on Saturday. But I told them that if we're not, meeting in person, then I'll be doing my game stream. So I'd be free after like 6 or 7, and they said that that would work. So I'll be able to stream on Saturday. Am I doing this coloring for fun, or is there some other purpose to it? It's for fun. Um, what I I want to give you, I want to give you a snarky response, which is to say, look at the video description. It says what I'm doing. But this is, um, it's a coloring book that my nephew gave me for Christmas, and um, it's very like this page is a pretty intricate one. um, and a lot of the details in real life are like very small. So, what I thought I could do in order to give me some things to stream about that I wouldn't necessarily have to be doing a big project like the Music of the Spheres booklet, I decided to scan all of the pages in and try to color some of them at least digitally. But this is the first one. And already I spent like an hour in the last stream just doing what you saw in the beginning. Basically, all of this I did last time, except for this tiny little bit that I just have been doing now. So it would take me a while to do even one of these, I think. I also thought it could be fun to try and see how I could color, because I have done several of the pages now in real life. After I scanned them all in, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to color while my sister and I watch House every night. I mean, I don't color every night, but I've been doing that. So, but I'm limited in the tools that I have, which is to say that I have some Crayola markers I've been using for that. And so it'll be nice doing it digitally that I can use whatever colors, whatever brushes I want. I can layer them however I want and not have it bleed through the paper or make an ugly color. All of that good stuff. Description doesn't specify the purpose though. I suppose not, but how the hell should I come and color along with you? It doesn't say come over here and color. It just says color with me, like work with me, you know? It's a genre. Clearly you don't watch a lot of art videos on YouTube. It's okay. You're right, it doesn't really specify the purpose, but I felt that it specified it enough. So what kind of things? I hope you're typing out a huge long essay about these videos that you've been watching, because I love Inception so much. So I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm also curious to know, because I think I'm probably asked you before, but I don't remember the answer. Have you actually watched Inception? I watched Inception, I think the day it came out in theaters. And I went with my mom. I don't know why she agreed. I guess because I really wanted to see it, so she took me to go see it. But that was in 2010, I believe. And I went and saw it with my mom. It was like the day it came out. And man, when it got that ending shot, when it cut to the credits, everyone in the theater gasped. It was incredible. And that was the first Christopher Nolan movie I ever saw. So after I had watched that, I went back home and we had, at that point, it was the first two of his Batman films were out. And we had both of them. So I went back, and also being somewhat of a fan of Gary Oldman, I was also interested in watching because I knew that he was in the Batman films that Christopher Nolan did. So I had watched those and they were very good. And then I eventually watched things like Memento, Insomnia, The Prestige. I did watch Following. I don't own it though. And I don't really remember too much about it. Although it's interesting because in Inception, the main character's name is Dom Cobb, and Cobb is the same name as the character from Following, I'm pretty sure. But I think, because Cobb in Inception is 2 B's, and I think in Following it's like 1 B or something. Let's see. Description was not accurate. Flight to Philly already booked. I'm coming to color with you now. Ah! Okay, well, good luck getting in. Instructions unclear. Now, let's see. I've watched Inception at least once, maybe even twice over the years, and today I started another rewatch. Yes, I love it. It's my favorite movie. What are my thoughts on Interstellar? I did not see Interstellar in the theater. The only other movies... Actually, I've only ever seen in theaters Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Dunkirk from Christopher Nolan. I didn't see Interstellar in theaters. And Tenet was in theater, right? Because that was like the big thing that he didn't want it to go to streaming. But I watched it on streaming once it was finally on there. Maybe not. I remember there was something with that movie that he was unhappy about, the idea of it not playing in theaters. But I didn't see it in theaters. Interstellar I liked, but I didn't like it as much. I think that for me, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing. That his earlier movies are better. No, I like the ideas that he comes up with for his movies. But there is something about, I don't know, I need to watch them more. Interstellar and Tenet, for example. Dunkirk, I mean, because of the subject of Dunkirk, I'm not really that interested in rewatching it, you know what I mean? But it was a good movie. And somehow that's the one that I own. It's Dunkirk, not Interstellar, not Tenet. Maybe it has to do with the cast? I don't know. There's something very different about those movies compared to like Inception and The Prestige. It just feels like something is more missing, so I don't have as much like deep feelings about those movies. I feel like they're a lot more, I don't know. Inception, people always talked about it being so complex and they didn't understand it. And I was like, I totally understand everything that's happening the first time that I watched it. A Nolden, yes. I'm not really though, but like I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. But I like Tenet. I like Dunkirk. I like Interstellar. I don't think they're bad, and I don't think that he should stop making movies like that or go back to making movies a different way. I just think they don't have the same spark for me as like a movie like Inception. Um, but I also don't care because that's what I have Inception for. So it's like if I want to feel the way I feel when I watch Inception, I'll just go watch Inception. I don't need him to make another one like that. Um, but to me, Inception is not. It has layers of complexity in the dream layers, but it's way more emotional than that, you know? Not to say that it, a movie like Interstellar or Tenet lacks emotion, but it didn't have quite the same emotion for me. I'm also a huge sucker for stories about father-son relationships for some reason. So maybe that's it too. And like that's one of the things I love so much about Inception, that um, you go through this whole epic journey, right? Going through, like, first of all, just getting all of the team together. Like, it's a heist movie, right? Essentially. So, getting all the crew together, planning, preparing, and then you go through the actual heist itself. And there's so much to it. And then at the very end, it's just for such a subtle result at the end. They're not like it's a change that happens and they accomplish their mission, but it's not like earth-shattering. It's like it really has that feeling like where you wake up from it with them and you're like, "Oh, yeah, this is the world that I'm in." It's like when I know that people have talked about, and I think even in that interview that I shared with you from the shooting script, that they mention that the movie and a lot of his movies in general, um, but Inception absolutely, like kind of relate to the process of filmmaking. So I know people have talked about that a lot already, but it does have that feeling of like when you go to see a movie in the theater and you get out and you're like a little disoriented. Like you feel that just it like with the characters when they wake up in the plane at the end. That's how I feel anyway. And I love that. Then you're like, "Oh, everything that we just went through, it it happened but it didn't." And it had an impact on the people who were there. But at the same time, nothing really changed in their actual lives yet, you know? To me that's so cool. So cool. Okay, let me see here what your comments are. seen Interstellar on a tiny screen and was blown away. Yeah, I think Interstellar would be a really good one to see in theaters. Dunkirk was good to see in theaters because, especially the one I went to, played a lot with the sound and everything. Tenet, I feel like, could be pretty cool. Also, there's some scenes in there that I remember that would be pretty interesting. But Tenet, I need to really like sit down and watch more closely because that one I got a little lost with because I wasn't fully paying attention to it. So that would also be a benefit of watching it in the theater. I don't think I saw Dunkirk, but actually I'm not sure. If I saw it, it did not leave an impression. I don't like what I've seen of Dunkirk, at least because it seems to be mostly dialogueless shots of war machinery and soldiers. Yeah, it kind of plays with the nonlinear storytelling aspect, and it was good. But yeah, because of, like I said, like the topic of it, I'm less interested in that than like going through dreams, living in the dream world, and traveling through time and traveling back through time and all that good stuff, you know? That stuff I'm more drawn to than war movies. But though I am interested to watch his next movie. Um, to say I'm not 100% a fan of Inception because, and I realized this again today, I think the subject matter is awesome, but the fact that it was used for essentially a heist plot, something so cold, made it not realize the idea's full potential. I cannot emotionally get invested into the characters. Big difference for me in Interstellar, I do get invested. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's so funny how I didn't really get invested with the characters in Interstellar, but I did. I mean, I see what you mean because, like, with the side characters, especially, I'm thinking about people like Arthur, Eames, great. Ariadne, we get some more um, characterization for, definitely. Because she's kind of the catalyst for Cobb to, like, kind of return back to his life and face down his inner demons. And then, like, Yusuf, we don't really know anything about him, and he spends most of the movie asleep when he is there. um, so there's that. But I also kind of like that because it, I think it lends itself to the dream aspect because it's like, how do I explain this? It's like the characters. Do you get to know people in your dreams? I don't. I mean, I dream about people I already know most of the time. But I don't know. I don't know. Let me read the rest of your comments that are talking about it. He tried to make the emotional stakes about the kids and the ghosts of Maul, but the reason why it doesn't work for me is that Maul is not a likable character. I have thoughts about that. So, but let me read the rest of this. Tenet is confusing as hell. I've watched explanations of it and still am not getting it. Yeah, I definitely need to rewatch that. You like Eames the most? Me too. Who doesn't love Tom Hardy, am I right? And I love Eames and Arthur together. They're very funny. Okay. By the way, what I said about Inception is not to say it's not a masterpiece, just the reason for why it wouldn't make it into my favorite movies list. I got you. I got you. Clearly impressed and inspired by it. Yeah. The interesting thing about Maul, I think this is it because It's kind of like the unreliable narrator, like with Memento, but a little different because we don't like you're saying you don't care about Maul because she's unlikable. But um I totally get that, and she's kind of the villain for the movie. So it makes sense to me. But also, like Cobb even says when he's talking to her for the last time, that like it's not her. It's just his subconscious projection of her and like the memories, and it's this dream version of her, you know what I mean? Um so not to say that you have to like her, cuz no, it makes sense that you don't like her. But I also feel like um maybe that's why there's not a real emotional connection to her, because we don't get to know her like at all. I guess for me that doesn't matter, that I still, because I can kind of understand Cobb's feelings, that for me it just kind of works. Elliot Page is somehow an actor who I could never connect to, but then again, so is Jessica Chastain in Interstellar. And I think before Inception, I had only seen him in Juno. So I think this was the first time I had seen him in a role that wasn't the iconic film of my youth. Um, a very different role, but I don't know. I kind of felt like maybe Ariadne was a little bit of a thin character as well, because she's only there to push Cobb in a specific direction. You know what I mean? I feel like, what does she get out of it in the end? We need a sequel where we see Ariadne's adventures after the fact. I'm just kidding, actually. We don't need a sequel to Inception, because I feel like then you would have to acknowledge whether or not it was real. And Inception ended perfectly, just the way it is. Uh, Now, I just said that, and the next sentence I was going to say is that the movie is not without its flaws. I will agree. But for me, it's just everything I want it to be, you know? So, and Arthur says she was lovely, so maybe the real Maul was nicer. I think so, I think so. Somehow didn't feel that bond between Cobb and his children either. Maybe just not enough of it is shown. I think it's just like, for me, I don't think about it as like specifically him wanting to get back to those particular individual characters, and then I need to understand his connection to them. But just more, I guess, how I think of it is just him having a need to get home, whatever that means, and that comes across for me well enough. But I see what you mean, because we also don't get to know them either. I mean, a little bit over the phone, but that's just the phone. But I see what you mean, because I think a lot of those things are very intentional, but that doesn't mean that it works for everyone. which is an interesting thing about storytelling, in my opinion. That there are some commonalities across stories and things that do kind of relate to a, a wide variety of people, but at the same time, um, not everyone. So that's pretty cool, I think. Because then it means that we can have a bunch of different stories that are still good stories, even if they don't connect with all people of the world. I think this happens a lot in talking about media these days, but maybe all days through all time. That any flaws are seen as something that means that whatever we're talking about is bad, not good, not worth anything. But I don't I don't agree with people who think like that. Ugh, what did I do? How do I undo that? Okay, I accidentally did the red channel thing, but I never remember what it is that I accidentally hit to make that come up. Anyway, yes, Ariadne is the walking exposition. Absolutely, she is the um what's the word? Not substitute, but she's us. She's the representation of the audience. So she has to ask how it all works so that we can learn how it works. Stand in. That was the word I was thinking of. She's the stand in for the audience. Let's see. Which, however, I feel is not a bad way to deal with exposition. No, yeah. That is an often used technique, I think, to have a character who is representative of the audience. Or on the flip side, where the main character is going into the new world, there's another character who's representative of knowing the stuff. And they explain it to the main character and the audience. Let's see. Until I watched tons of videos explaining Inception, I feel I am now watching the movie for the first time ever, understanding stuff. I clearly didn't understand a lot of it on first watch. After, not until. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it definitely is a little complex with how everything works. For me, I think because it's like a system with all these layers to it, I think my brain is just very well suited for that kind of thing. But there's definitely I don't know how many times I've watched the movie. I haven't watched it in a while, but I've definitely watched it enough times. And there's always things. It's one of those movies that you could rewatch tons of times and pick up on things that you didn't notice before or understand something in a new way. So I think it's definitely worth returning to for that reason, even if you do feel like you understand it already. It is just a great movie, in my opinion. When I was younger, I saw the Inception poster when it first came out, and it caught my eye because of the street bending upwards. I think that was one of the same things that made me want to watch it, was that in the trailer. But I don't. Are you talking about? I have to remember what the poster looks like. Let me. Because I can remember the poster that they're all like standing. Like, so maybe this is the one that you're talking about. And I think I always think of more like this one when I think about the poster. So it is kind of bending up back there too. This one just has more of the curve. But yeah, that scene was in the trailers that I saw, and I'm pretty sure that it's like, at least I think so. I love that part of the movie is my point. And that was if I did see it before, if I'm remembering correctly that it was in the trailer and I saw that happening, that was definitely a big draw for me. Just like the spectacle of it. That's the thing is I think a lot of his movies are spectacle, which I think is amazing, especially because of how often well, first of all, he still shoots on film when possible, and using practical effects as well. Often, at least, I mean, not always, but I love that too. So it's really cool to see what he can come up with. So a lot of his movies, yeah, they absolutely are a spectacle, and it's not like they're the deepest explorations of the topics, but they're enough for me because my brain only needs a little bit to keep thinking and thinking and thinking. I mean, you've heard me talk about things on in my live streams. If I have a topic that I know enough about and have thought enough about in the past, I have no shortage of thoughts in relation to it. Although I may just keep repeating myself over and over again. Anyway, so let's see. So you saw that poster, right? And that caught your eye. But you know what my thought was back then? They had guns in their hands on the poster, and I was like, an action movie with shooting? I don't watch these. That's fair. And there is quite a lot of shooting in that movie. So, and in a way, that's still what I feel. Great concept. I wish it was used to tell a story that is not about massive action scenes, corporate espionage, shootouts. I see what you mean. Um, oh, with the New York City street? Gotcha. Which is weird though, because the road didn't bend in any other ones. So it's weird. I think. I don't know. I need to rewatch the movie again. um, also, am huge sucker for the way Christopher Nolan wraps up his movies. It's one of the things I love most about like The Dark Knight, the ending little speech that Gordon has when he's talking to his son about Batman, and he's like, "So we'll hunt him because he's not a hero." I just love that, and you get the montage. Oh, amazing! So for me, even though like I was saying, when they come back on the plane and everything, it's just like a very subtle thing of like just disoriented coming back to the real world, and you know that a big change has happened inside of what's his face, Killian Murphy, Robert something. Is he Robert or was his dad? Anyway, a change has happened within him, and we understand that, but there's nothing in the physical world of theirs that shows that change, and I really love that feeling to it. And then them, all walking off. And there's also like an element of we know it had an impact, but at the same time, we don't know. Because we don't know what did happen totally after that. It could go in any which direction, but also kind of doesn't matter. Because the rest of the movie was so cool to watch. This is how I feel watching the end. Um, and just the music, the music, amazing. Amazing. Let's see. So it was interesting to read how long Christopher Nolan worked on this script and how he got stumped and only figured out the plot when he changed the antagonist. And also that he's a late night owl like me. Yes, Robert Fisher. The stream was gone. Oh no. Hmm. Let me check and see. Do I have any warnings? I have nothing in OBS about dropped frames, so I don't know what happened. But are you able to hear me now? I hope so. I think I missed your talk about the movie ending. I was I don't remember what I said, honestly. Um, I was talking about um, just in general, the way he ends his movies. I am a sucker for because they, in some way, always manage to wrap up the story, but then still give you like a hint at what could be to come after the movie itself ends, you know, and not necessarily in a way that sets up a sequel. I mean, the Batman movies do that for sure. Um, but like in Inception, it's more just like this thought that stays with you after the movie ends. This, by the way, is not at all what I said. But it came to me just now as I was talking. What I love is like the montage stuff that he uses and the music. And so like the ending of The Dark Knight is great. For I love that's like one of my favorite parts of the movie is Gordon's monologue at the end. To like his speech at the end where he's talking to his son and explaining that even though Batman didn't do anything wrong, um, that's the role he has to play in Gotham, so they'll hunt him because he's the Dark Knight and he's not the hero. Um, it's just great, and you get to see the montage of Batman like going through the city and stuff like that while the dialogue plays. And in Inception, it's like when they come back to the real world, real world question mark, um, on the plane. And especially with that one too, because what I was saying before is about the disorientation, right? That you like kind of in a way wake up with the characters. And we know that they were at least in some way successful in their mission. But at the same time, one, that we'll never know for sure whether or not it actually worked in the end. It's like a trust exercise. um, but also that we know there was some kind of change that Robert went through within that dream. At least we feel like yes there was. And that's how the characters feel, at least like Cobb, you know, and any of the characters who are in the lower dream levels, they can assume that it must have worked, but none of them are gonna know right away, and they might not ever know, depending on who they are. You know what I mean? Like, um, and even if we know or suspect that this change did happen within Robert and they our heist crew was successful in their mission, there's still no signs of that once they wake up. It was just in the dream. And like, I don't know, I love that so much. But then after they get off the plane and they're like going through airport security, customs and everything. And then when he gets back home and sees his kids and like the buildup of the music and the like tone of that sequence, that kind of thing. Ugh, I love it so much. I love it so much. You like Saito because you like the actor. He's great. He was in some of well, he was in the first Batman Begins. I'm trying to think, do I remember for sure if he was in any other Christopher Nolan movies? He might have been, but I can't remember. He's good. He's good. Saito in general is very interesting character. I love too the idea. So I guess like I was saying before about how Michael Caine is never a miss. Yeah. Have you ever watched The Prestige? Because if not, then I would recommend to watch that next because that is also a masterpiece of a movie. And Michael Caine's in that one as well, even more so. I don't know if it worked, but the important thing is that Saito sees he got what he paid for, so he rewards Cobb. Yeah, absolutely. Which is how it is sometimes in business, I guess. Oh, you have seen it? That was a good one too. I like that one a lot. I think what I often like in media like that is um not answers, but questions, if that makes sense. And I feel like for some people that doesn't work. um that like cuz I could easily see how people could criticize a lot of Christopher Nolan's films as like not superfluous, but like unnecessary, not really contributing that much. um, like he takes on these big topics, but what does he actually say about them? I don't feel that he has strong opinions per se that come through in the works. Like I'm thinking about The Prestige now and thinking about this concept of cloning yourself constantly. And it kind of goes back to actually, I thought about The Prestige while I was reading I Am a Strange Loop by Douglas Hofstadter, because in that he talks about this other story that gets used for this kind of thought about like if you were cloned, if there was like a transportation thing that sent you to Mars, but it meant that you had to die and your body would be recreated on Mars, but then you'd have all the same memories and everything. So for Mars, you, the you that ends up on Mars, it would be like you blink and then you're there. You blink, you're on Earth, you blink and then you're on Mars. But the Earth you dies actually. And the Mars you takes like an hour to build or something like that. And then trying to like people would try to talk about which one is the if instead of doing all of that you get cloned but then you don't die or something along those lines. So now there's two versions of you and it's like, well, which version is actually you? Is there one that is actually you over the other or etc.? Which one is the original you, especially um, in this hypothetical scenario? It was something that you would do frequently, so you'd be frequently traveling back and forth, therefore frequently killing yourself and being recreated in a new uh, as a new version is what I want to say, but I know that confuses. um, so that was really interesting to me, and I of course thought about The Prestige. But in like creating movies that kind of deal with and center on these topics, I feel he doesn't make any statements about it though, you know, which I can definitely see for some people that being like an issue and it feeling more cheap, mm, substanceless, etc. But for me, I'm the kind of person that I don't really need the answers. I like when to see what statements people make about topics in their movies. I like forming my own opinions based on those things, I guess. Um, I like it when they resonate with me, etc. I like thinking about do I disagree with this or not. But at the same time, if it's an exploration of this idea, I feel I also don't don't need a specific point of view from the creator. It helps to have kind of a point of view within the story itself, like from the characters and everything. But I don't think the a movie, even about a very broad topic like that, like a big high level topic, that it doesn't need to make a statement one way or the other. It's enough for me to just pose some question, even if you don't truly answer it, because then I can think about it. And my brain loves thinking. So, you know, I feel every couple of streams you ask me what Nolan movies I've seen, and I ask you which ones you've seen. We're all as clueless as Leonard in Memento. I'm okay with not getting answers to big questions, but I don't like ambiguous endings too much in terms of plot. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think it can depend. Like for me with Inception, I like it because it's a little shocking. And I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's another movie that it's not really an ambiguous ending. It's another favorite movie of mine. It's one of my favorite movies by the Coen brothers, which is A Serious Man. And in that movie, it's the main character, Larry Gopnik. He is a physics professor. And at the beginning of the movie, he's trying to get tenure. He um, is having to deal with a student who is asking him to give him a better grade on a test that he recently failed and tries to bribe him. He is dealing with a separation from his wife, who has already found a new person to be with, and I think they already basically were engaged. His son's bar mitzvah is coming up. All this stuff that happens. And so throughout the movie, he has to deal with all that stuff. Things get worse and worse. And it's just like uh, his he has um, a big like crisis of faith, and so he keeps seeking out these rabbis to try to understand what is happening to him and what he should do and all that kind of stuff. But the end of the movie, there's not really a conclusion to all of that. I mean, it's kind of like he does get tenure. His son's bar mitzvah goes okay, even though his son was stoned at the bar mitzvah, which is funny. Um, and so, like, kind of some of those things wrap up. But then there's a huge tornado that's coming, not just toward them, but also specifically in the direction of their house. And he gets a phone call from his doctor that that they've got test results of. Um, I think the movie starts with him at a doctor's appointment, and so it ends with him getting the call of the results, for which the doctor says that they should talk in person. And it's just kind of like, man, what else could go wrong, you know? And to me, that's a more ambiguous ending. But it's also kind of an ambiguous movie. I don't know. I don't know if you would consider that an ambiguous ending. I think it counts for me, but um, I'm trying to think of any other examples that I would think of as ambiguous endings that I don't like. I think an ending like that and like with Inception work well for me because they leave something with you, you know? And we get it's like for the fan fiction writers. We've gotten to spend these roughly 2 hours with these characters, and now here at the very end, we're presented with something that doesn't change any of what came before. It's kind of something new, but at the same time, it's kind of not. And then we can think about how does that impact the characters? It, it's different from, you know how, I don't know, well, actually, I don't know if you know how, but things that I learned growing up in school about how to write essays that you should not introduce new information in the conclusion. And I think that ambiguous endings can potentially do that. um, but it can be done well enough that it doesn't happen. Uh, so like with the serious man, it's like kind of introducing new obstacles and kind of just saying like, hey, you know that problem, you know all these problems that you're having and the deeper problem of you versus life. It's not over. But not in such a way that necessarily okay, maybe this is it. It's not exactly ambiguous endings, but endings for movies that you know are franchises where they use the very end of the movie to lead into the next one. And I don't mean like Marvel movies where they have like the end credit scenes, because they've done a decent enough job of separating that from the ending itself. But like for example, in Batman Begins, to go back to Christopher Nolan movies, at the end of that, they find the Joker card. So you know that the next movie is going to have the Joker in it. That's not really an ambiguous ending, I guess. But that's an ending that it can feel pretty heavy-handed, you know? It leaves the story open for more, is the thing. That's what I'm thinking of as being an ambiguous ending. It leaves it leaves the story somewhat to a certain extent unfinished. It's like the plot that you went through is done, but the story is not done, and there is more to it than what you just saw in the past 2 hours. With something that's going to be a franchise with sequels and stuff like that, then yeah, definitely there's more story to come. It doesn't always have to be that. I feel like A Serious Man and Inception are like that. They don't necessarily indicate a future story or future potential plot to come, but they leave the world of it open to an extent for you to at least continue thinking about, what is wrong with Larry? We will never know. what is so, what was in those results that his doctor wants to talk to him? How is this tornado situation gonna go? We don't know, but we can kind of imagine how the characters might react because we've just spent all this time with them. And with Inception, it's like, ooh, was the top gonna fall? Was it not gonna fall? And the bigger question of, like, does it matter? What would it matter to Cobb one way or the other? Because very clearly he doesn't care anymore. He spun the top, but he walked away. He's not looking at it. He might have to look at it eventually if he walks back into the kitchen. But and then you get to wonder, wait, was any of it real? Does it matter? No, because it's a movie. So actually, none of it's real. um, but so I love stuff like that. And you're saying sometimes you just want happy endings. Yes, that's true also. But me, oh, I love a good tragedy. I don't know why. When things are really tragic, mm-mm-mm. Especially if they were preventable things, like Anakin Skywalker. Oh, if the Jedi had only listened to Anakin and listened to his concerns and treated him with some respect, then he wouldn't have turned into Darth Vader. Is that true? Maybe, maybe not. But I love stuff like that where it's like, oh, something went wrong and this tragedy happened as a result. Ugh. Or even not necessarily that something specific went wrong that could have been changed, because in A Serious Man it's just like, guess what, life is gonna throw this stuff at you and there's nothing you can do about it. That's also tragic in a way. I want to say uh, it would matter to his children. Well, you can say what you the answer to the ending question, by the way. Go ahead. I'm just going to talk about this for a little while and I guess not color. Hold on, maybe I'll color while I'm talking. Actually, I need to think about what am I coloring next. I need a color for these other I need colors for these other flowers. I think we have a lot of blue, green. Yellow. I think, did I want to do a purple? I'm going to try a purple. Let's see if I can come up with a good purple. So would it matter to his children? Um, the thing is that if, because maybe this is for anyone who doesn't like the movie Inception or the concept of an ending like that movie. The thing is, if the top keeps spinning forever, then how could you possibly still assume any of Dom's story was real? Because everything that happened was based on the premise that we were in the real world. In theory, that's the real world. That's what we're led to believe by the movie presenting us with the sequences of all the other characters in the real world and Dom going back and everything. Um, so it would either be that we couldn't rely on that being true for any of the movie, or somehow he went back into the dream world after the conclusion of the heist on the plane. That instead of actually going back to see his children, he went to sleep. It's either one of those things. In which case then it would be weird, right? Then I feel you would still be totally justified in questioning him throughout the rest of the movie because his whole goal was to get back to his children, right? So if they exist and if he has the opportunity to go back to them, and he doesn't, and he instead stays in a dream, goes into a dream world where he can be with the children that he could be with in real life again. I don't know. I'd have to think more about that because there is some consideration for that with Maul. But she was tricked. She was really tricked into believing that her world wasn't real. It wasn't necessarily that she didn't want to stay in the real world. Her brain was messed up from what Cobb did. So that's my thoughts. Would it matter to his children? Were his children? Did he have children? Did any of it happen? Those are the kinds of questions that I feel I would at least wonder about. Now, me personally, I'll tell you, I'm not going to read your thing yet about what the answer is. I always believed that the top was about to fall over. It definitely was wobbling. So I think the top fell over. I think it was real, but I also don't think it matters because um, exactly why I just said it doesn't matter. So Michael Caine got confused and asked Nolan which of his scenes are real or dream. Oh, I think I remembered seeing that somewhere. Nolan said all the scenes he's in are real, and he spilled that in an interview. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I do think that is where it was headed. But I like that it doesn't show you one way or the other. I like it. I like it being a little open to interpretation. Maybe that's what I like. I like things being left a little open to interpretation. but a lot of people don't. And when you're concluding a story, especially for TV, found it can be very challenging, especially if you actually have left a lot of things open for interpretation, speculation throughout, and then you want to give a solid answer. You're in for disappointing a lot of people. So sometimes it can be good. Yeah, just leave a little bit left to the imagination. So, what were the things that you've learned about how it can relate to your own storytelling? I'm curious to know. By the way, what happened to my music? It like stops. Audio track is unavailable. Why? Why are you telling me it's unavailable? In all honesty, I should probably go soon anyway. I gotta make up my dinner. Let me think as well about other things I love about Inception. The music for sure. I like the Sorry, I was thinking more about the Somnocent and like what you were saying. I was thinking about, could be interesting to see more of the world, but cuz I wonder they give the explanation that it was technology developed for the military, which like 100% that would be how it goes. Um, but I assume it's still not within super wide use, but I mean, there definitely are people who are like addicted to dreaming in all of those little, feel like underground. I don't know if it's underground, but it feels underground, you know what I mean? The little dark layer where all of the sleeping people go. So, how did they get addicted to it? Maybe they were soldiers. These are the big questions. So I was thinking, what use would this tool be if you weren't doing a heist? It's basically like what we would use VR for, I think. You could more easily, not just so they develop it for training soldiers, develop it for training medical students, architects, all kinds of things. Now, of course, you do run into the problem because, like, when Cobb and Ariadne were on the bridge and she made the mirrors and everything, and then his subconscious got angry. So there are some limitations there. But I guess it depends on how you set up the dream. I don't know. I think first of all, I was able to get some pressure off myself because I saw that I'm not the only one stuck for a long time while plotting. No, absolutely not. I think it happens all the time. Even with the stories that do eventually get made into movies in this instance. Even with the stories that do eventually get out to the world is I think what I should have said. So it's not movie specific. I like the idea of hiding content or tension in the form of a work like the tension time passing in Interstellar being coded into the BPM of the score. Oh, yes. Yeah, like multimedia kind of thing. I think that's what I love about um, film also because you can do so much um, storytelling in the visuals alone. And like the story as written and the story as seen can be totally different things in how you present it, and having the visual gives you another channel to explore how to convey that story or emphasize the story through like camera angles, positioning and movement and everything. And of course, the other aspects of film, such as sound, contribute to that as well. And how Inception starts right in the middle of things because it reflects a dream, and dreams always start in the middle of things. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was one thing that I was trying to say, but I got distracted. That I love how it starts with the glimpse of Cobb um, on the beach, and then that we get to eventually return to that moment, and we can have a better understanding of what happened. That's pretty great, if you ask me. Nolan also talks about the emotional truth of the character, which made me look up that concept. Generally, I got inspired to maybe dream bigger with my plot and try something more unconventional. Ooh, yes! I want to know what your story's about. But I won't ask. Because I know you're still working on it anyway. I just love me some stories, you know. I also really like strange loops, you know? So I was thinking about what I just said about uh, how it starts with Cobb on the beach, and then we ultimately get to go back to that moment. Um, and in such a, it's so cool because it creates such intrigue. You're like, what is happening here? Who are these people? How did he end up there? Which we don't get the answer to ultimately. We don't know how he ended up on that beach in the end, but um, like how specifically. But we do get to hear him, you know, say that he's staying behind so that he can go find Sato. Um, it sounds like I'm getting like super emotional, but it's just that I'm losing my voice. uh, and like I love that aspect of it as well. Then I was thinking about your time travel story that I read and how I was mentioning to you about BioShock Infinite then and like the weird uh time loop that you do at the end of BioShock Infinite before you find out that Comstock was Booker the whole time. Oh my god. And I just love stuff like that that's like kind of weird and trippy, you know? So I think that's why I'm the perfect kind of I'm the exact target audience for a movie like Inception. Very nervous about sharing unfinished ideas. I don't know why actually. I get you because I'm like that too. Especially with story stuff. I'm like, no, I mean for me, maybe I do know why. For me it's probably because I don't have enough of it thought out. And I'm like, I don't want to explain it to you yet because it's not as you won't get it because too much of it is still stuck in my head somewhere even I haven't accessed yet. And a lot of things come to me as story wise come to me as feelings, you know, and not plot points, which is challenging. I'm like, I know how I want the story to feel. I don't know how I want it to go, but I know how I want it to feel. I can tell you the rough idea in a DM soon if you're interested. Sure. You can, anytime you're wanting to share your story idea to me, I'm willing to listen. So I will leave that up to you. Um, by the way, I'm working on two plots at the same time, both of which I'm stuck in, but in very different stages. Have you ever considered combining them? The first one is very fleshed out, but problematic, won't work in parts, so it needs a major rewrite. And the second one is in very early stages. It's like I have the general idea, atmosphere, vibe, the beginning and the end, but not the plot or characters in the middle. Yes, that is. Um, I've had that struggle plenty of times. I'm still kind of going through that struggle in a story that I sort of. In a story slash world that I sort of started writing slash building in 2016. Yes, that's right. Almost 7 years ago. And I cannot tell you what it's about because I don't have that still. I have like different ideas and I haven't yet decided on which like world it actually is or what has happened or what the actual story is compared to things that would be backstory or legends in a backstory, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Feelings and vibes. I always have this first. Yep. Hmm. I'm just saying. Maybe you can find a way to make it work. You never know. That's the other thing, too, my friend. At least you can think of the stories that you don't manage to get beyond a certain point. Keep them around, and you might find ways to take elements from them and throw them in. You know, just like arabesque, just like aliens, just like the man who swears. I'm getting really hungry now. I should probably go eat something. Ugh! What is happening with this? I colored the wrong ones. How did that happen? Oh no, I colored the wrong ones for all four of these. I mean, these stripes here, all four of those. I meant to color this one, this one, this one, and this one. Anyway, I love that moment where when you're working on a story and you come across something that you feel like, wow, I was so inspired to keep working on my story now. Even though it doesn't necessarily inspire you in terms of giving you ideas for the story itself, but you just feel like, wow, I really am inspired to think about my story. Sometimes you don't feel inspired to think about the story. Sometimes you feel like, story, get away from me. Go somewhere, go do something else. And then later you're like, oh yeah, my story. What if I were to think about that story? It's a possibility. I mean, you could combine everything somehow. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I haven't seen that yet, though. I still need to watch it. I want to try and watch it maybe this weekend or something. Now, let's see. Hold on. I'm having trouble putting the content of one into one book, and that is not too long, so I can't make a sprawling mega epic. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Let me. Oh, I forgot that this is sideways to begin with. Now, let me just think. I just want to do the center color for this this flower. That'll be the last thing that I do. I'm gonna put the yellow in. Even though I don't think I want the yellow. But I'm gonna put it in and see how it goes. And then I'll probably just do a color adjustment to find what color I actually do want. This is one of the benefits of working digitally. Because if I was just coloring with my little old Crayola markers, then if I put this in and I didn't like it, I mean, I actually do kind of like it. I think the yellow works okay, but I also think I want something a little different. So I am going to adjust just to see what else we can come up with. Because I thought about doing like a more of a pink, but I don't necessarily want that. We can get more of an orangey kind of color, could work. But now I'm thinking the orangey color, in theory, in color theory, should go with the blue. And the yellow should go with the purple. But what if we defy? What if we switch it up a little? Wait, did I pick this orange before for this purpose? Or was I going to do orange flowers? I have an orange color already here that I just thought it was the color of the birds, but that's this color, I think. Well, I don't like that one, so I'm gonna keep this other orange that I've got, and I'll just add it to my swatches down here. Okay, wonderful. Look at the progress that I've made. Feels like no progress, but that's how it is with these coloring pages. Let me read your last few. Also, Nolan layers and rewrites his scripts a lot. This radical rewriting is something I feel I shy away a bit from. I need to be braver there. It's hard. I have trouble with that too because I edit so much as I'm writing, and I feel like if I don't have a clear understanding, I easily get stuck. So I can't write out the whole thing and then go back and change. I have done that before where I've written a draft and then gone back and changed the story a lot, but not right away, you know, and took a lot for that to work. And I think I had that was also a lot more of a character based story than anything. So I had the characters down and that helped. So I didn't changing the plot didn't feel as big of a task because the characters and how they interact with each other was always going to remain pretty similar. By the way, now that I've tried to put my lessons in words, I feel like they might feel trivial or not many, but I feel very inspired, and that's also important. I agree. I agree, and I totally understand what you mean because I've been through that as well. I feel like after being stuck, I now have another angle to approach the problem from, also by reading that book on story structure, where I'm halfway through. Great. Yay! I'm curious to see some of your more story oriented work if you want to share at some point. Well, maybe we can do a mutual story sharing session. I'll tell you, plenty of it is fan fiction. Um, I did have a script. I think I maybe sent it to you a long time ago. I don't know if you ever read it, but I did write a script, oh my God, over 10 years ago now. Like 12 years ago. What the heck? Because I'll be honest with you. What happened is that it's almost like I stopped taking math classes. I stopped having a math class my second semester of community college and I missed it. So I wrote a story about this kid who gets tutored in math. But I mean, it's not about that. That's just like a premise. Um, and that story I rewrote several times. It's interesting. I think I went back to read it again and I'm like, I don't know how much I like this, but I love those characters, you know? And yeah, I can't remember, but that's not to say you didn't send it. My memory is poor in many aspects, as you know. Yeah, and this would have been years ago, I think. Several years. So it's a lot that's happened, you know? I don't even remember exactly when I sent it to you. It be might be too far back to search in Twitter, but I think I sent it to you in your DMs, not the group chat. I don't think I emailed it, but I could be wrong. I could be thinking of something else. Anyway, the song is over, so, and it's like 7 o'clock now. Oh, it's after 7 o'clock. Oh my God. Yeah, I should definitely go and make up my dinner. So thanks for joining me here. on this coloring live stream where we've made some progress with these flowers. I've colored in all of the stems in the image, and we've got the base color down for the purple flowers. So next time I'll keep working on the stripes in the center for the flowers, and then what to do after that. Maybe think about the butterflies. I think that would be a good time to, because there's these two big ones and then there's a lot of small ones throughout. I think that'll be another good element to try to at least get the base color like with the birds. I'm thinking a pink can go in with the butterflies, but we'll see. We'll see. Can't find it under the term script in any DM. It might be. Well, I can resend it to you anyway if you want me to. It's a screenplay, so it's written in screenplay format. Um, then after the butterflies, maybe some of these other little flowers that are around. And the leaves, I feel like we can leave for last because we can just kind of make those a dark green. But it'll be interesting. There's actually a lot of details in many, many of the leaves, so. But I kind of think the butterflies would be good to do after these purple flowers are done. And then the other smaller flowers around. And then other things. Well, thanks for joining me. I don't know when I'll do this kind of stream next, but hopefully someday. Because I meant to. The whole point of me having this concept of the coloring pages to color was to be able to do more streams on this channel and to put more out there. But maybe I do need the motivation of an actual project that I'm working on, not just coloring someone else's stuff. And it takes longer than I anticipated it would doing digitally, which I don't know why. I'm always slow at that, especially if I'm talking. Well, anyway, keep your eyes peeled for more art streams from me. And in the meantime, I'll be back on Twitch on Saturday playing Majora's Mask. Very exciting. So thanks for joining me. I still have not, maybe that's what I should do next, an art stream to get my peace out animation. What an idea. What an idea. So perhaps that'll be next. Do I have anything else to say? I don't think so. Until next time. Greetings, friends. No, wait. No. Not that. No. What is it? Oh, yes, of course. Until next time. Peace out.